Are you ready for the most underwhelming experience of a lifetime? Welcome aboard Seattle Mariners Airlines, where we make sure your experience is just good enough to get you where you need to go. Looking for comfort? Forget about it. Our seats are designed to make you question ending it all, but hey, at least you'll have somewhere to sit. We're not about luxury, we're about getting it done. Eventually. Turbulence? Oh, we've got plenty of that. When the plane takes off, if it ever does, you'll start wondering if this is the last plane ride you or anyone else on will ever take. It follows the theme of the Mariners postseason chances. There's a lot of drama, and it usually leads to nothing good. Need entertainment or something fun to watch? Go fuck yourself. Thirsty? Grab a drink that's just barely cold enough to count as refreshing. It's the Mariners season in a cup, good enough to survive, but you won't be celebrating. And when we land, don't expect any fanfare. You made it. That's good enough. Seattle Mariners Airlines. We'll get you there. Eventually. This ad was brought to you by Spirit Airlines. Imagine a rock climber who gets 90% up a mountain before deciding, I'll just stop here and set up camp. That's how the Seattle Mariners are in a nutshell right now. This franchise really continues to be such an interesting and equally frustrating development, I guess you can call it. When you look at the team, they have arguably the best starting rotation and pitching staff in the entire league. It's sick. Yet, there continues to be a big obstacle in the way of bringing this team to the promised land. Like the Joker to Batman, or Lex Luthor to Superman, or anyone's toilet after Taco Bell. The Seattle Mariners' number one villain is the Seattle Mariners. Really quick as always, if you're part of the 51% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button if you enjoy the videos, as the Mariners issue isn't about being dumb or making bad decisions. In fact, and a lot of you may disagree, but their president of baseball operations, Jerry Dipoto, he's a smart guy. You may think he's dumb, but there's a reason he has the job he has and has had for 10 years, and there's a reason you and me don't. A team like the Pirates or the Rockies or the Marlins, those teams are mostly in bad spots because of their bad choices. But for the Mariners, it's more about what they haven't done. What they have done is build a pretty solid foundation for success. Like I just said, they have arguably the best starting rotation and overall pitching staff in the game. Everyone is mostly on the younger side. They have 7 prospects in MLB's top 100 prospects, as their farm system is arguably the best in all of baseball. I mean, all of this is so great. Dipoto and the Mariners have done such a great job building this foundation. Unfortunately, Dipoto and the Mariners have done just as good of a job sabotaging themselves and getting to that next level. A couple of years ago, after the Mariners missed the postseason in 2023, Jerry Dipoto said the team's overall goal should be to win 54% of their games every year. Basically to shoot for around that every year, and over time you'll be consistent. That's the idea. And this caused an uproar, understandably so. And since then, Dipoto's only gotten more flack for anything he says, and he even knows anytime he opens his mouth he'll get roasted. Literally saying after his latest interview with the New York Times that he's going to get roasted for everything he said in it. Now, I understand his overall point with the 54% philosophy. Dipoto's whole deal is not to go all in to win a championship and obsess over that alone, because that can derail a franchise since you're not building something sustainable, but rather going all in now, which inevitably blows up your future. It's like the Padres a couple years ago when they were trying to sign anyone they possibly could just for the sake of adding big names. They were going all in, and we're already seeing the negative effects to that. So I get the idea. A front office's job, when you really think about it, is to get their team to the postseason. It's not even winning a championship technically. It's about putting them in the best position to win one, because once the postseason starts, what you got is what you got. The front office can't do anything, and it's such a crapshoot even if you have the best team on paper. So instead of going all in one year, you take your chance over the span of 10 years, your team wins 54% of its games over that span, makes the postseason, say, 6 or 7 out of 10 times, and wins it all 1 or 2 of those years. The Rays have been doing this for years without a championship to show for it. They spend little money but have a formula and system of churning out competitive teams that aren't necessarily the best on paper out of everyone, but good enough to make the dance a lot of the time. And anyone who gets in has a shot. The issue with this, though, is the simple fact of life. Balance is key. You go too extreme one way, no matter what that way is, it's never ideal. What the Mariners are doing is in many ways just as dumb as going all in and crushing your future in hopes to win now. Prospects are great, especially when they're ranked highly, like the Mariners have a lot of them. But at the end of the day, they're never proven, ever. Only so many prospects turn out as advertised when it's all said and done. I mean, in a perfect world, the Mariners can keep doing what they're doing forever, but in reality, they can't. You're not always going to have the league's best rotation on your hands. That's such a rare, valuable opportunity you can't assume happens again after some of them inevitably leave to other teams who want to pay them, which brings us to one of the biggest reasons the Mariners are so held back and also why it's not fully on Dipoto. As much as Dipoto has a say in things, there's always a bigger fish, and that bigger fish is an ownership that doesn't care to invest much into the team. He can only work with what he's allowed to, and it's not a lot of money. While having the best pitching staff in baseball last year, the Mariners had one of the worst offenses. It was as bad as your average Taika Waititi movie. They led all of baseball in strikeouts, were second to last in total hits, batting average. I mean, thank God for the historically bad White Sox, or else they'd have been dead last at everything. But these teams shouldn't be close. The difference between the White Sox and Mariners is one team is supposed to be awful, and nothing about the team is good, while the Mariners are supposed to be the division winners, and their pitching staff is arguably the best in the entire league. The AL West division couldn't have been more winnable than it was last year. The Mariners even had a first place lead of over 10 games at one point. I have never seen such a team destruct themselves as much as the Mariners did last year. Practically begging Houston to win that division. Like, please, we'll do anything. Now, some of the offensive struggles are out of the team's control. Seattle's ballpark had a more major impact offensively than Coors Field did last year. And what I mean by that is Coors Field is famous for being a hitter's paradise because of the altitude. The ball just flies there. Yet T-Mobile Park in Seattle impacted offense in a bad way more than Coors Field helped offense. It was that bad of a hitter's park. And a lot of it has to do with the weather, just how things are naturally in Seattle. So it's not like the Mariners should ever be expected to have baseball's best offense, even if it was better than it is right now. But you gotta at least improve it somehow, some way. You can do that. Yet, this offseason, their biggest addition, 37-year-old utility man Donovan Solano. Last year, they traded for Justin Turner and Randy Arozarena at the deadline, which were solid moves, but of course not the splashes we're necessarily talking about them needing. And speaking of Turner, who ended up signing with the Cubs this offseason, actually after spring training began, he had some very harsh but fair things to say about the team he played on for a few months. Bro full on shamed them. When talking to USA Today, Turner said the fact that they missed the playoffs by one game and didn't go out and add an impact batter to when you have the best pitching staff in baseball seemed absurd, adding that as much as he wanted to be back there in Seattle, if he was the only piece they brought back, he'd be wondering what the hell they were doing if they were even trying. To quote Turner, "There's not going to be a better time to go for it, so I don't know what they're doing. I'm very confused. It's a head scratcher for me." And then when an unnamed player still on the Mariners was asked if Turner was wrong in what he said, that unnamed player said,
"Not one bit."
And it's no secret Mariners players hate what's going on. After missing the postseason in 2023, one of the team's best players, Cal Raleigh, spoke really as a fan, saying what we all think, acknowledging that the Mariners need to spend more money to keep up. Also referring to the team they had just played, the Texas Rangers, and saying when you look at the other locker room, they've added more than anybody else, and that you saw where it got them this year. And he said that before they won their championship with their $500 million middle infield. Raleigh still thinks this way, so does JP Crawford, who publicly defended what Raleigh said at that time. And in spring training this year, Raleigh reiterated that he and the team understands the frustration, but also acknowledged whatever Dipoto does is outside his control, and he at least appreciates his transparency, which is what Dipoto gives us all. And both of those things are very valid. If you're going to operate the way you're operating, good to at least be honest about it, but it doesn't change the fact that things can and should be different. Why couldn't the Mariners have been in on Juan Soto? Well, we all know why. They're cheap, but Soto would have been the perfect big splash to add. Not only is he arguably the game's best hitter and has been for 7 years, but he's 26 years old. It's so rare to get someone that good that young, which is why he got the contract he did, whether you think it's an overpay or not. I think it's one of the rare times where spending that much on a player was warranted. I mean, part of why I think it was such a good signing for the Mets was not just in terms of making the team better. Yeah, of course it does that. But what you're also doing is paying for basically the rights to the player Juan Soto is. You're paying for a franchise guy, a Hall of Famer, who, when he gets inducted after playing with you for a long, long time, will be wearing your cap. If you're the Mariners and you need offense, this is the guy I think to give a ridiculous contract to. Like, yeah, don't give out big contracts left and right to anybody. Be selective about it. And Soto is that guy I think you could have been selective for. Soto could have been another version of Ichiro or a better alternative of Alex Rodriguez, a superstar hitter who, of course, on his own makes your offense that much better, but also a guy who will retire with your franchise when it's all said and done. You lock him up forever, and it really changes the trajectory of your franchise. This is pretty much what would happen if an expensive player asked the Mariners to pay him what he's worth.
You serious? Pay you for what? Standing there?
Yeah, they settled with Donovan Solano on a one-year deal instead. One of the most dreadful offenses in baseball in 2024 is virtually just running things back in 2025, hoping things are different somehow. I mean, Julio Rodriguez should have a better year. For what's expected of him, he wasn't very good. But are you really going to bank on everyone just being better? No, you need to spend money, even if it's just some of the time. Again, balance. Everyone complains about the Dodgers signing all these good players, but they didn't just all of a sudden get the idea to do that. And that's not the only reason that they're good. They've been building up a foundation for years, like the Mariners have. A foundation of good draft picks, good trades and sneaky pickups, good development of their players, building their farm system and a solid base. And once that was in place, they get Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and eventually Ohtani, which helps bring in Yamamoto. And now you have an empire everyone wants to be a part of, even if it takes leaving money on the table, like Roki Sasaki and Teoscar Hernandez chose to do in order to play for the Dodgers. But the point is, the Dodgers have mastered the balance between building that good foundation of consistent success every year and spending money on outside help. The Mariners just refuse to do that. They're completely content with hopefully being good enough every year in hopes they make a run one of these years in the playoffs. And I mean, they're not even sneaking into the playoffs. They've missed out the last 2 years, each by a single game. If they had any sort of competent offense, they'd make it with ease. Again, they would have won the division last year. Their offense as a whole single-handedly cost them that. Yet they want to just run it back with no big changes. I mean, their only big change is their manager. They fired him before the season was even over, as if the hitters for getting out of hit was his fault. Who knows how much longer this opportunity with the pitching staff can last. I mean, we see how fragile pitchers are now, and even if they stay perfectly healthy, either way, it's not like the Mariners will be the ones paying them in free agency. Like Justin Turner said, this is the perfect time to invest at least a little bit into the hitting to support the awesome pitching. Yet nothing happens. They didn't even want to get hitting the other route. That wouldn't have taken as much money by trading one of the pitchers for some offense. No, they didn't even do that. Hell, they even lost their longtime play-by-play announcer, Dave Sims, a guy who was there for 18 years, to the Yankees to replace John Sterling, who retired, as their radio guy. Even their announcer was like, I can't watch this offense anymore. In fact, I'm going to go as far as I can across the country to get away from it. I hope the Mariners are good this year. That fan base and city deserves to see a good team, and a lot of their players are fun. But as of right now, it just doesn't seem like anything is really changing. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.